Good morning, all of you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, so today we will continue with the chapter The National Movement, and we have seen that all sections of society uh, were angry and dissatisfied, discontented with the British rule when we did the revolt of 1857. We saw that also, and now this discontentment, this dissatisfaction and anger against the British rule, it continued, and gradually the awareness came to the Indians that the Indian resources are being controlled by the Britishers, and India would not be for the Indians till the time the Britishers are here. And so, with that view in mind, political associations came to be established to join the Indian people so that they can oust the Britishers from here. And then during the 1870s, some political associations, regional political associations, were formed, and then in 1878, the Arms Act came out, and along with it, even the Vernacular Press Act, and it increased the dissatisfaction of the people, and people became more angry with the Britishers. And then, with the Ilbert Bill, people came to realize that they could never expect any type of equality from the Britishers, and the people felt that now was the ripe time to establish an all India organization, and this led to the establishment of the Indian National Congress in 1885 by Allan Octavian Hume, and this was in consultation with the other prominent Indian leaders at that time. So, Indian National Congress was formed, and during the first 20 years or its early years, it was led by people which were called as moderates. Now, why they were called as moderates? Because they were moderates in their objectives and also the way to achieve. And so, in their objectives and in their methods, means the methods they used to achieve those objectives, they were all moderate. Now, the moderates, they have complete faith in the British rule, and they thought that they simply had to present their demands in front of the Britishers, and their demands would be met. So there were many things that the moderates wanted. Their main objective was that there should be more number of Indians in the legislative assemblies. Then the moderates wanted more Indians in the civil service, and then reduction of the government expenditure and taxes. They wanted the salt tax also to be removed, and they wanted reduction of government expenditure so that more money could be used for the Indians. Then they also wanted the expansion of the legislative councils. They wanted more power for the Indians. Then we also saw that the Indians, the moderates, they were against this drain of wealth from India to Britain, because the salaries uh, of the Britishers, they were going, they only, the people were working here, but their families were there back in Britain, so they were sending their salaries there. And then even the pensions the Britishers got, it was in Britain, so the money was not staying in the Indian market, it was going from India to Britain. So there was this drain of wealth, and the moderates, they wanted this also to stop. Then the moderates, they also wanted separation of the judicial from the executive powers, and they wanted so that judiciary should be free and fair. And then the moderates also wanted the spread of primary education among the masses. Then they asked for the development of agricultural bank, and this was to save the peasants from the local money lenders, because in villages what usually happens, if there's a bad harvest or the harvest fails, then the poor people, poor peasants, are left with no money in their hands to survive, and so they take money from the money lenders who charged very high interest. And so that is why the nationalists, they demanded for the setting up of the agricultural banks from where the peasants can take loans. And they wanted the medical facilities and health facilities to be improved, and the police system to be better and more efficient. And then the national leaders, they were also talking about the Indian workers, they were forced to go out to search work in some places where they were being ill treated and they were compelled to migrate to South Africa or Malaya, Mauritius in search of work. And here they were discriminated by the rulers there, and then they also had to suffer racial discrimination, and so they were against that also. Then the moderate leaders wanted the Indians to become aware about the unjust nature of the British rule, and then, from the very beginning, the politically conscious Indians now they had been attracted to freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of thought, and association means freedom of expression and associations to form unions and come together for meetings and all that. And they published newspapers, wrote articles to prove that how the Britishers they were leading to the economic ruin of the country, and they criticized British rule in their speeches, and but still, they felt that the British they respected the ideals of freedom and justice, and so they would accept the demands of the Indians. And what was necessary was to make the British government aware of the feelings and demands of the Indians. So those were the moderates and their demands and how they went about it. They sent petitions and letters to the British government asking their demands to be met. Okay. Then the Indian Councils Act of we already saw 1892. It failed to provide to give Indians any proper role in the administration, and the moderates they were also not able to achieve much, means though their demands were so many, but most of them were not met by the Britishers. And so a new group of leadership arose in the Congress, fiery, spirited, and leaders like Bipin Chandrapal, Lala Lajpat Rai, and Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and these were called as the radicals, those who wanted fast and complete changes, and those who were ready to put force also on the government to get their demands met. And so they even parted ways with the moderates, and they criticized the moderates for their politics of prayers, means they were simply sending their petitions and requests to the British government so that their needs, their demands would be met, but did not achieve much. So the radicals they even criticize the moderates for all that, and they emphasize the importance of self-reliance and constructive work, which would help not only the individuals but also the country on a whole. Now Tilak he gave this famous slogan, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it, and it became the source of inspiration for the Indians. Now what that means is that the radicals they wanted to settle for nothing less than Swaraj, whereas the moderates they were happy with the British rule, but they simply wanted to get their demands met. Then in 1905, Viceroy Lord Curzon he ordered the partition of the province of Bengal, and at that time Bengal was the biggest province. It was also one of the richest province, or it was the richest province, and it included it included Bihar and even parts of Orissa. And so what we can say that it was quite a big province, and now the Britishers they divided the province, and they cited that they were doing it for administrative reasons. They said that it was such a big province, so it was difficult to administer and govern it. That is why they were dividing it. But the real reason was something else, and now they wanted to weaken the national movement in Bengal, and here the Bengali Hindus they exerted so much influence of the local and national politics, and you know the national movement was very strong here. People of all the communities, Hindu, Muslims, together they came to fight or to protest against the Britishers, and they wanted to weaken this national movement and sow seeds of disunity among the Hindus and the Muslims. And the partition was planned in such a way so as to separate the Hindu majority areas from the Muslim majority areas. And when he ordered, Lord Curzon ordered the partition of Bengal, so it made the Bengalis very angry, and so the streets of Calcutta, they were full of the cries of Vande Matram, which later on became the national song of Bengal. And the Bengal leaders, they felt that they realized that just demonstrations and public meetings will not get them anywhere, and it will not achieve much for them. And so they came up with two new methods of protest, that were boycott and Swadeshi. Okay, anyone has an idea what does boycott mean?
Ma'am, in the earlier days, ma'am, when they wanted to protest themselves, ma'am, they boycotted the British, means the goods that were made by British or anything by the British, it was not, uh, ma'am, they were not taking them and wanted that uh, if we want anything, that will be of India.
Okay, all right. So, and what does Swadeshi means? Swadeshi?
Ma'am,
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 the thing
means
made
that,
in
Hmm.
ma'am,
India.
Okay.
ma'am, the
Indians.
country in
Yes.
ma'am, in the country we are living, ma'am, things of that state only, ma'am. If we live in India, then Swadeshi will be goods of India or anything of India.
Okay. Yes, Devansh, what you were saying was correct.
Ma'am, the things made in India are called
All right.
Swadeshi things.
Swadeshi means belonging to one's own country. And when you boycott certain thing, you had to use those goods. So if you were not buying British textiles, British cloth, but then you need cloth. And so they that is why they combined boycott with Swadeshi, so that when they were boycotting things, not using things, not buying things British, then obviously they got something to substitute for it. All right. And that is why, so it was together, boycott and Swadeshi. And so they emphasize the use of Swadeshi, or the use of Indian goods, and the boycott of British goods. And then in many places there were huge bonfires where British cloth it was burned, British goods were burnt. And then shops which were selling foreign cloth or foreign goods, they were also picketed. Anyone has an idea what does picketing means, or picketed means?
Yes, ma'am. Repeat.
Picketed, Picketed. The shops which sold British goods, they were picketed. Now what happened? The nationalists, they used to stand in front of the shops which were selling British goods or liquor and all, and they did not let them sell their wares. So that was called picketing. And so in many regions, the people, they even picketed shops which sold foreign cloth or foreign goods. And in Daltaik region of Andhra Pradesh, this movement was known as the Vande Matram movement, because they sang the song, that is why. Okay. Now the Swadeshi movement, it opposed the British rule and encouraged the use of the ideas of Swadeshi. So Swadeshi, that means everything Indian. And so that meant goods also. And then they will not be dependent on the Britishers or anyone for anything. And then national education, they will use their uh, system of education and not British system of education. And that also with the use of Indian languages and not English language. Okay, now the opening decade. What is a decade?
10 years.
Okay, so a period of 10 years. So the opening decade of the 20th century, it also had some more developments. And so in 1906, the All India Muslim League, it was founded by Aga Khan, the Nawab of Dhaka, and Nawab Mohsen ul Mulk. Then this Muslim League, it supported the partition of Bengal. And now, why Muslim League supported the partition of Bengal? Because they wanted some special things, favors to be done for the Muslim population here. And so they appealed to Viceroy Lord Minto for a separate Muslim electorate. Now, in which Muslim voters would only elect Muslims. So, separate electorates, you know, under our system, constitution right now, we have reserved constituencies for the SCs and the STs. Now what that means is that from that particular constituency, only scheduled castes or scheduled tribes will contest elections. Now under separate electorate for Muslims, what it meant was that only the Muslim people living in that particular constituency or from in that particular electorate, they will elect or give vote for the Muslims only, so that, and this what Muslim League wanted it, Muslim majority areas, so that Muslim candidates could be elected. That is why they wanted, because if it was a general election and a general constituency where everyone had could contest elections, and everyone gave vote to everyone, they could give vote to everyone, so in that condition it will become a little difficult for Muslim candidates to be elected. That is what they thought, and that is why they demanded for separate electorate for the Muslims. And during this time only, the differences between the moderates and the radicals, they widened, as we already saw that their main objective also was different, and the way that they got about getting those objectives met, now that was also very different. And so, there were clashes among the moderates and the radicals, and they widened. And so in December 1907, at the Surat session of the Congress, there was a split in the Congress, and the radicals, they decided that they will work from outside the Congress, and the moderates, they got hold of the Congress and they worked from inside. So then the Britishers, they tried to please the Muslims. They were playing on this divide and rule. They wanted to, like I told you, sow seeds of disunity among the Hindus and the Muslims. And so when they passed the Indian Councils Act of 1909, which is also known as the Morley Minto reforms, and under this they provided separate electorates for Muslims. And now, after the split, the Congress, like I told you, it came to be dominated by the moderates. But the moderates soon realized that this act, or the Morley Minto Act, the Councils Act of 1909, it did not give proper representation to the Indians in the legislative assemblies. And so the moderates realized that they were not able to achieve much, and so the two groups, they reunited in December 1915. And at the next session of the Congress, at Lucknow in 1916, the moderates and the radicals, they came back to united and put up a united front. The Lucknow Congress was the first united Congress since 1907. That is the session at Surat where they split. Then at Lucknow, the Congress and the Muslim League, they also decided to sink their old differences and to come together and present common political demands before the British government. And the Congress and the Muslim League, they signed the Congress League Pact at Lucknow in 1916. Okay, we'll have a look at the emergence of Mahatma Gandhi also. I think then we'll stop. Now, during all these circumstances, a new leader, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, he appeared on the scene, and he took control of the national movement. And he was in earlier he was in South Africa practicing law. And in South Africa already there was apartheid, which was a system of racial discrimination, which the white rulers there, they discriminated the native blacks there by the system. This system was a system of racial discrimination and segregation. And so in South Africa, and when they were discriminating the blacks, so it was not only the blacks, it was other communities also. And under that, colored people came, and Indians, they counted among the coloreds, so the Indians also have to suffer discrimination there. And so in South Africa, Gandhiji had already led Indians against the racial discrimination, and so he was well known in India and in other places in the world also. So Gandhiji, he arrived in India in 1915 from South Africa. And then in this South African campaigns, he met so many people belonging to different social groups, different religious communities, like the Hindus, the Muslims, the Parsis, the Christians, and like upper class merchants, lawyers, workers. So he came in contact with all people or all type of people belonging to different social groups. And now Mahatma Gandhi, when he came to India, he first took a tour of the entire country to get a pulse of the country, to know what was really happening, what were the demands and the sufferings of the people, and what were the problems of the people. And so Mahatma Gandhi had a basic understanding of the problems which affected the people of India and their needs and their overall situation. And so that is why, because he knew the people well, and he knew their suffering, their problems, and what they wanted so well, that is why, he was able to bring the masses into this national movement. Otherwise, till that time, people, they were protesting against the Britishers and all that, but it was like, if there was some problem of the workers, so only workers were involved. If there was some problem of the peasants or the farmers, so only farmers were involved in that revolt or rebellion. But Mahatma Gandhi, he was able to bring the large number of people together in this national movement. And Mahatma Gandhi's first great experiment in Satyagraha. Now, Satyagraha means passive resistance based on truth, means non-violence passive resistance which was based on truth. So what was Mahatma Gandhi's view? That if your demands were true, if what you were standing for fighting for was truth and right, then you don't need to be violent about it. You just need to uh, knock on the conscience of the oppressor, and uh, sooner or later you will get what you wanted. And so he thought that there was no need to be violent about it. You just need to be persistent and a little, maybe sometimes a little aggressive, but not in a non-violent sense. And so he stood for passive resistance which was based on truth. And so his first great experiment in Satyagraha, it came in 1917 in Champaran, a district in Bihar. And here he was accompanied by Rajendra Prasad, J.B. Kripalani, and others. And Gandhiji, he reached Champaran, and he began to conduct a detailed inquiry as to what was the condition of the indigo peasants there. What is indigo, by the way? Yes, class 8, indigo. Anyone here?
And what?
Ma'am, it's a color. Ma'am, it's a color like, ma'am, dark purple. I'm very dark purple.
Ma'am, indigo, ma'am, it's
Huh.
airlines.
What is indigo?
Ma'am, it's a airlines also. Ma'am,
No,
Ma'am,
no.
violet,
airlines and
indigo,
color
Okay,
also.
we are
blue,
not
green,
talking
yellow,
about.
Oh,
orange, red,
airlines.
rainbow
We
colors.
are not
Color.
talking about airlines, Rishabh. Okay, indigo. We are talking about indigo peasants. So obviously, peasants will not farm those airlines. Okay, so here we are talking about indigo, the blue colored dye. All right, and so the peasants who used to work on these indigo plantations, now they were having this problem that the prices at which they sold their indigo, now it was reduced by the Britishers and set at a very low or a level. And so the money at which they were selling their wares, it was so less that they were not making any profit. And now they could also not sell it to anyone else. They had to sell it to the Britishers only, and they could not sell it to others, so that there would be more competition and you could sell to the highest bidder. But here they had to sell it to the Britishers at the prices which were set by them, and these prices were too low. And so the condition of the indigo peasants, it was becoming very bad. And so Gandhiji, he helped these indigo workers, indigo peasants there, and he won his first battle of civil disobedience in India. Now, civil disobedience, what does civil disobedience means? It means you deliberately defy the law. All right. Now, here, when we say deliberately defy the law, or deliberately stand up against a law, or deliberately break a law, obviously we are not talking about laws which are set up for the law and order of the country, that you go on stealing, that you go on killing people. No, we are talking about defying those laws which are discriminatory, which don't treat people equally, or which are not good for the welfare of the people. So here we are talking about defying those laws. And now that is why, why defying civil disobedience, because the price that they were set, the Britishers British planters said it was very low, and so they were standing up against it and defying that no, we will not sell it at that particular price. And so Gandhiji, he won his first battle of civil disobedience in India. Then in 1918, Mahatma Gandhi, he intervened in a dispute between the workers and the mill owners in Ahmedabad, and Gandhiji, he took a fast unto death to strengthen the workers' strike. Now there, the workers, they were used to work for very long hours. The salaries were also not up to the mark, and their living and working conditions were very poor. And so Gandhiji, he helped the workers in their protest, and finally he got victory there also. Then in 1918, crops failed in the Kheda district in Gujarat, and the government, they refused to remit or cancel the land revenue and insisted that they wanted full collection. Now you could well imagine, if the crops failed, then how would the peasants pay revenue, and that also full? And so Gandhiji, he supported the peasants and asked them to withhold the payment till the remission was met, means not give any payment till the time this cancellation was met. And Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he became Gandhiji's follower during this Kheda struggle. So these were the three early campaigns. These are called as the three early campaigns of Gandhiji, and he won all these three battles, and obviously he became more bold and more strong to take on his ways and resistance to the masses after that. Now these were just like indigo peasants, and then workers of the mill at Ahmedabad, or peasants at Kheda district. So he got emboldened by all these victories, and then he knew he was ready for an all India resistance or an all India revolt against the Britishers. So when we meet again tomorrow, we will continue with the Rowlatt Act. Have you understood? Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
All right. Okay, so that would be all for today.